Watch this. It's a quick one. And then we'll talk. Now, for those of you who didn't catch it, I'm gonna just read this. Men who turn religious at random should 10,000% not be trusted because they definitely did something vile they're trying to make up for. Now, for those of you who are new here, hi, my name is Shayna. I'm a journalist. I talk a lot about decentering men, child-free living, and the interactions between all of those things. So if that sounds like a vibe, please like, share, subscribe, all that sexy stuff. And now let's dive into this. Why? Because I grew up in the Pentecostal church. So I know this intimately. I'm also bringing out my handy dandy notebook because there are things to discuss and I don't want my ADHD or whatever other neurodivergent cocktail my brain be sipping to get too far off track. There is a difference between having faith and being religious. Faith is personal and religion is about rule systems and control. So when I appreciate that this creator, Cowgirl Bebop, love that, said that they become extra religious. Because religion implies that there is a structure. There are a set of things that are to be done in order to dive deeper into religion, have more religious presence. Faith doesn't necessarily have to be seen, but religious fervor is always public. And religion has always been used. Hold up, what do I have right here? Religion is an escape for accountability. Religion as an escape for accountability is not new. It's not, especially when it comes to men. Now, I also recognize when we think about the Boogas, they don't really know what accountability means. You hear that phrase a lot. I'm taking accountability. I have taken accountability. In fact, I've got a couple of wild examples of that coming up later. But even in history, this is something running to religion and diving into religious fervor and saying, oh, I just need my time alone with the Lord after, just don't. Like when men do that, it's always been the wildest red flag to me. Now, the first example that I have on here is this. Now, this might seem unrelated, but I promise you, it's all going to make sense. We're going to put our thinking caps on right now. So this is an article from the Irish Times. I will be linking it below if you'd like to read the entire thing. So this article says they thought it was Judgment Day, the night the stars fell on the U.S. South. As thousands of meteors fell one 1833 night, slavers told slaves their families had been sold. I'm just going to rephrase that really quick so that way it's more politically correct. The murderers and kidnappers told their enslaved people that their families had been sold. And we're going to focus on these two paragraphs specifically here. Let us begin. Big stars coming down real close to the ground, and just before they hit the ground, they would burn up. We was all scared. Some of the folks was screaming and some was praying. We all made so much noise. The white folks came out to see what was happening. They looked up and they got scared too. They thought it was judgment. You know what? Let me stop. I jumped ahead, my bad. But then the white folks started calling all the slaves together, and for no reason, they started telling some of the slaves who their mothers and fathers was, and who they'd been sold to and where. The old folks were so glad to hear where their people went. They made sure we all knew what happened. You see, they thought it was Judgment Day. This was their penance. They knew that they had done bad, not just in the eyes of their God, but also in the eyes of humanity. They knew that whoever was upstairs, they said, oh my God, it's Judgment Day. Whatever is up there clearly sees the wrong that we know we are doing. We have to try and make some kind of amends. This is one of the roots of religiousness and patriarchy and white supremacy and how it all kind of feeds together. You think about the slave Bible. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the slave Bible is basically an edited version of the Bible that basically condones chattel slavery, and tells the reader, who were the enslaved people, hey, slavery is good, slavery is God's will, and if you go against your master, then you are going against the will of God. The use of religion and control to make marginalized people feel bad, to suppress marginalized people, and to uplift the oppressor is not new at its core. And it goes back far beyond this. Historically speaking, there's several quotes in the Bible that have been grossly misused. One of them is when Jesus tells the people, like, oh, when somebody asked Jesus, hey, like, how often should I forgive somebody? And then Jesus basically said, oh, if they hurt you 7 times and you forgive them 7 times 7. The way that men have used this, the way that it has been used in whiteness, the way that it just and here's some examples of what this looks like in our modern day society.
So difficult to reflect on the darkest times. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
Accountability thing.
I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy. I'm going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
Going back to what I said earlier about the lack of accountability, one, because they don't know what that means, but also the alley-ooping it back to the Lord after they have done something so obviously grotesque. And the way that people, especially under like a Christian supremacist society, where like Now hear me out. I recognize that there's a lot of very Christian people that follow me. I love you guys. This is no hate to any of you. I grew up very Christian, in case you were not sure. I had to read the Bible so many times. I was that person that grew up in church. I was in church Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, sometimes Saturday for the entirety of my childhood. And the way that Christianity and Christian politics have permeated into American society and into a lot of global politics, but specifically in the United States, there is no separation of church and state. And when it comes to what this looks like and how this is taken advantage of in relationships, P. Diddy, P. Diddles, is one example, but also here's another example. I will be doing the deepest dive into this documentary because wow, right? Ashley Madison, Sex, Lies, and Scandal on Netflix. Every woman needs to watch this. If you are attracted to men, but especially if you a lady who attracted to you, need to watch this. My God. Right now, I'm going to focus on one small part of this docuseries. Whenever I get to it, I'm going to tag it right up there. That video that I'm doing is going to be tagged right up there. But for right now, I just want to focus on this without sharing any of the spoilers, because I will do that in that video that I will be tagging at some point. This couple, specifically this booga, this booga right here. This is for those of you who may have been on YouTube for a very long time, this was a very, very famous YouTube Christian couple, right? And their lives got blown to smithereens, right? Because of his chaos. And I just feel so bad for her. God, I just feel so bad. I'll be diving into more of that later. But basically, he ruined everything. Arguably, things were ruined long before this documentary started, time-wise anyway. But after he ruined his entire family, mind you, they're a Christian couple. they were Christian like in the very beginnings of their relationship. And the way that I still don't think he fully understands the level of damage that he has done to his family and to many other communities. But the way that he uses Christianity and trying to warp it so that way he can convince people, he can manipulate situations to get a forgiveness that he thinks he is deserving of, that he's clearly not. Forgiveness for what? I will not be sharing that in this video. Once again, I'll be doing a whole other thing. But the kind of fervor, the way that he dived so deeply into Christian, mind you, they're already like a Christian couple, like when it came to their content, but him personally getting back into the faith after he knew the gig was up, after he knew he'd been caught on all angles, was screaming red flag, was screaming run, get out. He did something. And arguably, yes, P. Diddy, we've seen some of the things that he's done. The lawsuit has come out, but we know that there's more. Diddy knows that he diddled more daddles that have even come out. So yeah, he's gonna have his come to Jesus moment. They all at some point have their come to Jesus moment, but they're only coming to Jesus because they know that that the sins of the realities that they have created for not just themselves, but for the people around them are engulfing them. They feel the licks of the fires of hell. And they said, oh, wow, this is no bueno. I guess, Jesus, help. Everybody look at me. I'm going to Jesus. And I've seen this. I've seen this kind of thing happen in real time. Like I said, I grew up in the church. I was in youth group often. And there was always something so interesting about when you would see a young man, and not just in youth group, but like it still happens in church every now and then. I'm not gonna say which church, but when you see a man of some kind go to the altar, and yeah, people have stuff going on in their personal lives and that kind of stuff, but you would always hear whispers, like especially in youth group, because like kids love the gossip. It's against the Lord, but we love the gossip. So you'd hear about things happening in people's relationships, and you'd hear about like, oh, well, he did spend like an extra study night over at insert lady's house over there, and he was rubbing her back a little extra too hard, even though he's in a relationship, while he was praying for her. And then you would see these men weep at the altar. These young boys prostrate themselves before the Lord Almighty. And I'm just like, ooh, he did something bad. He did something. I didn't even realize that that he'd done something terrible. But I think the thing that really gets me is when, even if you don't, because intuitively you can always kind of tell, like, when somebody is going up to the altar just so that way, because there's something personal, like a family is in pain or whatever, right? As opposed to like, oh, you did something, right? And I always find it so interesting when I see a couple go up to the altar where the man is leading the woman to the altar, and she looks like she don't want to be there. She looks like she don't want him to touch her. But he has like tears in his eyes. And he is the one leading her to the altar. It's all one and the same. It's all one and the same. Just things for people to be careful of. Why? Because I know that there are a lot of women out there, which is why I think that y'all should watch that documentary and then come back for whenever I make that video. There are a lot of women out there who really, especially Christian women, who really want a man of faith, which I think a man of faith and a religious man are two different things. Personally, men that are very Christian concern me. Personally, and growing up in the church, if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Please sound off in the comment section. But especially if you want somebody, if you are a Christian woman who is interested in men and would prefer a Christian man, please be aware of this. Religiousns, especially male-centered religiousness, is a bomb field for women looking for a long-term partnership. Lots of things happening in the underbelly that always affect us, but sometimes we don't see it until it's too late. So I hope this video encourages people to pay a little bit more attention, ask a couple more questions, trust that feeling that you have. If it don't make sense, if you feel like, oh my God, something is awry here, investigate. It's a warning sign. That is all for now. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, things along those lines, please type them away in the comment section. And I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.